Chosen one, this message is not for everyone. If you stumbled upon this moment casually, pause right now, because only those who are truly walking the divine path of God will feel what is about to be released. This is not random. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. Heaven itself has guided you here because your spirit has been crying out for confirmation, for peace, for relief, and for truth. And today, God is answering. Chosen one, you may not even realize how heavy the weight has been on your soul. You've been strong for too long. You've carried responsibilities that stretched you beyond your limits. You've fought battles in silence, smiled when your heart was tired, and kept moving forward when every part of you wanted to rest. You prayed when answers felt delayed. You trusted God even when nothing around you made sense. And heaven saw every moment of it. This message comes at a turning point. Not because you are weak, but because you have endured. The exhaustion you feel is not a sign of failure. It is proof that a season is ending. God does not ignore his chosen. He does not abandon those who remain faithful under pressure. What you are experiencing now is not punishment. It is preparation for divine rest. Chosen one, God is saying to you right now, you can rest. I will do the rest. These are not comforting words. They are a divine declaration. The striving is ending. The warfare is shifting. The burden you were never meant to carry alone is being lifted by the hand of God himself. If you felt like everything intensified lately, the resistance, the delays, the emotional weight, it's because you are approaching a spiritual threshold. The enemy fights hardest when he knows he's about to lose access to you. But hear this clearly, you did not quit. You did not give up. You stayed faithful when it hurt, and that obedience unlocks something in the spiritual realm. Chosen one, you were never meant to live in constant survival mode. You were refined, not destroyed. The fire did not consume you. It shaped you. Every disappointment redirected you. Every delay prepared you. Every loss protected you. What looked like stagnation was actually divine construction happening beneath the surface. Heaven was laying a foundation strong enough to support what's coming next. And now, God is inviting you into a new phase, not of striving, but of surrender. Not of pushing, but of trusting. Not of anxiety, but of peace. This is the moment where human effort steps back and divine movement steps forward. Stay with this message until the end, chosen one. What you are about to receive will not only bring comfort, it will bring clarity. It will shift how you walk, how you think, and how you rest. The revelation waiting here is meant to realign your spirit and prepare you for what God is about to release. Before we go any further, if your spirit recognizes this message as truth, type 999 in the comments. This is not superstition, it is a prophetic act of agreement. 9 represents completion. A cycle is closing, a new season is beginning. By typing it, you are declaring that you are ready to receive what heaven has prepared. Chosen one, breathe for a moment. You are not late, you are not forgotten, you are not alone. This message found you because God himself led you here. And what happens next will change how you experience peace. Now listen carefully. The rest you've been longing for is not coming someday. It begins now. Chapter 1. Your exhaustion is not failure. It is a sign of transition. Chosen one, I need you to hear this with your spirit, not just your ears. The tiredness you feel is not weakness. It is not laziness. It is not a lack of faith. What you are experiencing right now is the exhaustion that comes when a long season is finally ending. You have been pouring, giving, standing, believing, and enduring far longer than most people could, and heaven has been watching every step. You have carried burdens that were never meant to be carried alone. Emotional weight, spiritual responsibility, silent battles, unanswered prayers. You showed up even when you felt empty. You kept believing when hope felt fragile. You stayed faithful when it would have been easier to walk away. And now your body, mind, and spirit are responding to the shift. This is not collapse. This is transition. Chosen one, understand this. Before God elevates, he allows you to reach the end of your own strength. Not to break you, but to free you. As long as you believe everything depends on you, you will continue to strive. But when you finally feel the limits of human effort, you become ready for divine takeover. Your exhaustion is not evidence that God has left you. It is evidence that God is preparing to step in. Think about it. The pressure intensified right before this moment. The resistance grew heavier. The delays felt longer. The emotional weight became harder to ignore. That is not coincidence. That is spiritual timing. The enemy always pushes hardest when he knows a breakthrough is near. He wants to wear you down before you step into rest. But you didn't quit. You're still here. And that means something shifted. Chosen one, you have been operating in survival mode for too long, constantly adapting, constantly adjusting, constantly being the strong one. But God never designed you to live that way. Survival was a season, not a lifestyle. Strength was required for a time, but now God is calling you into surrender. Not because you are defeated, but because you have proven faithful. Your exhaustion is the signal that you are approaching a divine threshold. When the weight feels unbearable, that is often the moment heaven draws closest. God has seen every sleepless night, every tear you wiped away in silence, every prayer you whispered when no one else was listening. He saw you keep going when your heart was tired. He saw you stand when your legs were shaking, and He is not forgotten. Chosen one, the world teaches that rest comes after success. But God teaches that rest comes before manifestation. Because rest is not the reward, it is the position. When you stop striving, you make room for God to move. When you release the weight, heaven releases grace. And when you finally admit, God, I can't do this anymore, that is when His strength becomes most visible. You are not behind. You are not missing anything. You are not being delayed. You are being repositioned. What felt like exhaustion was actually your spirit letting go of control. What felt like weakness was actually your soul preparing to trust. This is the point where your journey changes from human effort to divine alignment. Chosen one, don't judge yourself for feeling tired. Honor what you have survived. Honor the battles you fought in silence. Honor the faith you maintained when there was no evidence. Heaven honors it too. And now God is saying, you have carried enough. You have proven enough. You can rest now. This chapter of exhaustion is closing, not because your work is finished, but because your assignment is shifting. You are moving out of a season where you had to push and into a season where things begin to flow. The pressure is lifting because the responsibility is changing hands. Stay present, chosen one. This is only the beginning of the shift. What you thought was the breaking point is actually the turning point. The weight you feel is not pulling you down. It is being lifted. And in the next chapter, you will understand why everything you endured was necessary for what God is about to do next. Chapter 2. You are being prepared, not punished. Chosen one. There's a lie that tries to creep into your mind during long seasons of difficulty. It whispers, if God loved you, it wouldn't be this hard. But that voice is not truth. If anything, the intensity of what you endured is evidence of how intentional God has been with your life. You were never being punished. You were being prepared. God does not refine what He plans to discard. He only refines what He intends to use. Every trial you walked through, every delay that frustrated you, every closed door that confused you was part of a divine process. Heaven was shaping your character, strengthening your discernment, and deepening your dependence on God. What felt like loss was actually transformation taking place in disguise. Chosen one, preparation rarely feels gentle. It often feels unfair. You watched others receive things quickly while you waited. You saw people bypass lessons you had to learn the hard way. You wondered why your path seemed heavier, slower, more complicated. But the reason is simple. God was building something in you that required depth, not shortcuts. What He is about to entrust you with demands maturity, wisdom, and spiritual stability. There are blessings that destroy people who are not prepared to carry them. God loves you too much to give you something before you are ready. So instead of rushing you, He refined you. Instead of elevating you early, He grounded you. Instead of surrounding you with applause, He placed you in silence where your motives could be purified and your faith could grow without distraction. Chosen one, the pain you endured was not wasted. Every disappointment trained your discernment. Every betrayal taught you boundaries. Every delay taught you patience. Every season of isolation taught you how to hear God's voice without interference. You were learning things you could not learn in comfort. You were gaining strength that only pressure could produce. When you felt overlooked, God was protecting you. When you felt rejected, God was redirecting you. When you felt delayed, God was aligning timing, people, and purpose. Nothing was random. Nothing was accidental. Heaven does not waste suffering. God uses it as a tool to prepare His chosen for what lies ahead. You may have thought you were standing still, but heaven was working underneath the surface. Roots were growing where no one could see. Foundation was being laid in secret. And just like a building cannot rise without a solid base, your next season requires the strength that was built in the unseen place. Chosen one, stop replaying old questions like, why me? And start declaring, thank you, God, for trusting me with the process. Because not everyone is chosen for refinement. Not everyone is entrusted with pressure. Some are called to comfort, but you were called to impact. And impact always requires preparation. Even now, you are stronger than you realize. You can handle things that would have broken you before. Your discernment is sharper. Your faith is deeper. Your tolerance for nonsense is lower. That is not hardness. That is maturity. God has been shaping your spirit to recognize alignment, not attachment. Chosen one, your past seasons do not define your future. They prepared it. What you endured will make sense soon. You will look back and realize that if things had happened sooner, you would not have been ready to sustain them. God did not delay you to hurt you. He delayed you to protect you. And now, the season of preparation is giving way to the season of manifestation. What was built in secret will soon speak in public. What was refined in silence will soon produce fruit. You are not stepping forward as the same person who started this journey. You are wiser, you are grounded, you are ready. In the next chapter, Chosen One, you will begin to understand what God is inviting you into now. The season of striving is ending, and the season of divine rest is being revealed. Chapter 3, God is calling you into divine rest. Chosen one, after everything you have endured, there comes a moment when God speaks a different word over your life. Not fight, not push, not hold on, but rest. This is not an invitation to quit. It is an invitation to trust. Divine rest is the reward of obedience, the result of endurance, and the evidence that a season has been completed in the Spirit. For a long time, you believed that movement required effort, and that faith required constant striving. You felt responsible for holding everything together, your calling, your family, your future, your purpose. But God never intended for you to carry His plans alone. Divine rest begins when you understand that God's strength is activated when your own reaches its limit. Chosen one, divine rest is not inactivity, it is alignment. It is the moment you shift from trying to control outcomes to trusting God with direction. When you rest in Him, you are not stepping back from purpose. You are stepping deeper into it. Rest is not retreat, it is repositioning. The world teaches that rest comes after everything is finished. God teaches that rest comes when the work is entrusted back to Him. Even God rested, not because He was tired, but because His work was complete. In the same way, divine rest means recognizing that what God started in you, He is faithful to finish. You do not need to add stress to speed it up. You do not need anxiety to make it work. Faith is enough. Chosen one, many of you have been restless in your spirit, not because you lacked faith, but because you were trying to manage what only God could move. You prayed, planned, and prepared, but still felt an inner tension. That tension was not from God. It was the result of carrying responsibility that belongs to Him. Divine rest begins when you finally say, God, I release this into your hands. Rest is not weakness, it is warfare. The enemy thrives on anxiety, exhaustion, and fear. When you choose rest, you are declaring victory before you see results. You are saying, I trust God more than what I see. That peace becomes your shield. It protects your mind, guards your heart, and keeps your spirit sensitive to divine guidance. Chosen one, when you enter divine rest, your energy changes. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop forcing and start flowing. You stop begging and start standing. Rest aligns you with heaven's rhythm, and when you are aligned, things begin to move with less resistance. This is why God is calling you to slow down internally, even if externally life is still active. Divine rest happens first in the soul. It is the calm that says, even if nothing changes today, God is still working. It is the confidence that does not require constant reassurance. It is the peace that remains steady even when circumstances are uncertain. There will be moments in this season when heaven feels quiet. Do not panic. Silence does not mean absence. God often works most deeply when He speaks the least. The quiet is not delay. It is construction. Divine rest requires faith in the unseen, trust in the process, and confidence in God's timing. Chosen one, you have matured spiritually. That is why you are now being invited into rest. Earlier seasons required constant instruction. This season requires trust. You no longer need signs for every step. Your peace is now your confirmation. Your alignment is your evidence. Let go of the belief that you must suffer endlessly to be faithful. God does not glorify burnout. He glorifies obedience. And obedience now means resting when He says rest. You are not abandoning your calling. You are preserving your strength for what is next. Chosen one, divine rest is where miracles are born. When you stop striving, heaven starts moving faster. When you stop worrying, clarity begins to form. When you release control, divine order takes over. This is the place where God does what you could never do in your own strength. In this season, your assignment is simple but powerful. Remain faithful, stay aligned, and guard your peace. Do not rush what God is aligning. Do not force what God is preparing. Do not cling to what God is removing. Rest allows God to rearrange your life with precision. Chosen one, this invitation to rest is sacred. It is not for everyone. Only those who have endured the fire are trusted with peace. Only those who have proven faithful under pressure are invited to step back and let God move. Receive this call. Lay down the weight. Breathe. Trust. The season of striving is ending. The season of divine rest has begun. And in the next chapter, Chosen One, you will begin to understand the powerful shift that happens when human effort ends and divine movement takes over. Chapter 4, The Shift. From striving to trusting has begun. Chosen one, there is a sacred shift happening within you right now. It is subtle, but it is powerful. You are moving out of a season where everything depended on your effort and into a season where everything depends on your trust. This is the moment when striving gives way to surrender and human strength steps aside for divine movement. This shift is not dramatic on the outside, but it is monumental in the spirit. For a long time, you believed that if you stopped pushing, everything would fall apart. You felt responsible for making things work, fixing what was broken, holding together what was fragile. But that belief kept you trapped in constant tension. God never asked you to carry the weight of outcomes. He asked you to walk in obedience. Trust begins when you release the false belief that everything depends on you. Chosen one, striving was necessary in earlier seasons. It taught you discipline, endurance, and responsibility. But if you stay in striving beyond its purpose, it becomes resistance to God's grace. There comes a moment when effort turns into interference, when trying harder actually slows down what God is trying to do. That moment is now. Trust is not passive. Trust is active alignment. It is choosing peace over panic, faith over fear, surrender over control. When you trust God, you are not stepping away from responsibility. You are stepping into divine order. You are saying, God, I believe you see what I cannot see. I believe you are working, even when I do not feel movement. This shift may feel uncomfortable at first. Striving gave you a sense of control. Trust requires vulnerability. It requires you to accept that you do not need to understand everything to move forward. It asks you to walk by faith, not by constant reassurance. That is why many resist this stage. But chosen one, you are ready. You will notice this shift by how you respond to pressure. Things that once triggered anxiety no longer control you. You may still care, but you no longer panic. You may still desire outcomes, but you no longer obsess. That emotional detachment is not apathy. It is maturity. It is the sign that you are learning to rest in God's sovereignty. Chosen one, trusting God does not mean you stop doing what He asks. It means you stop worrying about how it will turn out. You continue to obey, but you release the burden of results. That burden was never yours to carry. When you let it go, your spirit becomes lighter, your mind becomes clearer, and your decisions become more aligned. This is the season where faith becomes quiet confidence. You no longer need to announce what God is doing. You no longer need validation from people. Your assurance comes from alignment, not applause. The need to explain yourself begins to fade because you understand that your journey is spiritual, not logical. God often removes familiar supports during this shift, not to abandon you, but to teach you dependence on Him alone. People may step back. Plans may change. Structures you relied on may shift. Do not fear this. Trust is being built where reliance once lived. God is becoming your foundation in a deeper way. Chosen one, the shift from striving to trusting also changes how blessings arrive. Instead of chasing opportunities, you begin to attract alignment. Instead of forcing doors open, they open naturally. Instead of proving yourself, favor speaks for you. This is how God moves when trust replaces effort. You are learning a new rhythm now, one that flows with peace instead of pressure, one that responds instead of reacts, one that listens instead of rushes. This rhythm may feel slower, but it is more precise. God is not rushing this season because He is aligning it perfectly. Trust requires patience, but patience does not mean inactivity. It means remaining steady while God rearranges things behind the scenes. It means staying faithful in small things without demanding immediate results. It means believing that what God promised is already in motion. Chosen one, do not return to old habits of striving just because trust feels unfamiliar. Growth always feels unfamiliar before it becomes natural. This shift is evidence that you are crossing into a higher level of spiritual maturity. You are no longer surviving, you are aligning. In the next chapter, you will begin to understand what divine rest truly means and how it operates in your life. The striving chapter is closing, the trusting chapter has begun. Chapter 5. This is what divine rest truly means. Chosen one, now that you are shifting from striving into trusting, it is important to understand what divine rest truly is, because it is often misunderstood. Divine rest is not quitting. It is not laziness. It is not disengagement from purpose. Divine rest is a spiritual position. It is the place where your faith becomes so anchored in God that anxiety no longer has authority over you. The world defines rest as stopping activity. God defines rest as confidence in His sovereignty. Divine rest is the inner assurance that says, even if I cannot see how this will work out, I know God is in control. It is peace that does not depend on circumstances. It is stability that remains, even when life feels uncertain. Chosen one, divine rest begins in the mind. For too long, your thoughts have been in constant motion, planning, worrying, replaying conversations, anticipating problems. This mental warfare drained you more than any physical labor. When God calls you into rest, He is inviting you to lay down the burden of mental control. Rest means you stop fighting battles in your thoughts that God has already won in the Spirit. Rest is a declaration of trust. When you rest, you are saying, God, I believe you are faithful enough to handle this without my anxiety. That declaration carries power. Heaven responds to trust faster than it responds to effort. When you stop striving, you allow God to move without resistance. Divine rest also requires faith in silence. There will be moments when prayers seem unanswered, when God feels quiet, when nothing appears to change. This is not abandonment. Silence is often the sound of divine construction. God works deeply in stillness. Rest means you trust Him, even when there is no immediate feedback. Chosen one, divine rest is where alignment replaces control. You stop forcing relationships, outcomes, and timelines. You allow God to remove what no longer fits and bring what does. This can feel uncomfortable because control feels safe. But divine rest teaches you that obedience is safer than control. When you enter divine rest, your reactions change. You no longer react emotionally to everything. You become slower to speak, quicker to discern, and more intentional with your energy. Peace becomes your filter. If something disrupts your peace, you pause instead of pushing. This discernment protects you from unnecessary battles. Rest does not mean you stop obeying God. It means you stop carrying the weight of outcomes. You still show up, you still serve, you still follow instructions, but you trust God with the results. You understand that obedience is your responsibility, and outcome is God's. Chosen one, divine rest is also spiritual warfare. The enemy wants you anxious, distracted, exhausted, and doubting. When you rest, you deny him access to your mind. Peace becomes your shield. Faith becomes your anchor. You stop giving energy to fear and start living from assurance. Another truth about divine rest is this: what is truly from God cannot be lost. When you rest, you release the fear of losing what you built. You understand that if God gave it, He can sustain it. If He promised it, He can restore it. Rest teaches you that God's plans are not fragile. You may notice that as you rest, certain desires fall away. Things you once chased no longer excite you. This is not loss. This is refinement. God is aligning your desires with your destiny. Divine rest purifies motivation. It teaches you to want what God wants, not just what feels good. Chosen one, divine rest creates spiritual sensitivity. You become more aware of God's nudges, more attentive to peace, more alert to misalignment. You no longer rush decisions. You wait for confirmation. You trust timing. Rest sharpens discernment. This season of rest is not permanent stillness. It is preparation for divine movement. Rest is the pause before acceleration. It is the calm before God moves quickly and precisely. You are being positioned, not paused. God is teaching you a new way to live, one that flows with grace instead of pressure, a way that trusts instead of controls, a way that rests instead of resists. This is not weakness. This is spiritual authority. Chosen one, divine rest is not something you earn by effort. It is something you enter by trust. And now that you understand what it truly means, you are ready to move into the next phase, where human effort ends and divine movement begins. Conclusion: Chosen one, rest now. God will do the rest. Chosen one, hear this final word with clarity and peace in your spirit. The season you have been walking through has come to its appointed end. The striving, the waiting, the silent battles, the pressure to hold everything together. It is no longer required of you. God is not asking you to do more. He is asking you to trust more. You have already done your part, and heaven has taken notice. This message did not find you by accident. It arrived at the precise moment. Your spirit was ready to release the weight it has been carrying. You were strong when strength was required. You endured when endurance was necessary. You remained faithful when the road was uncertain. And now, God is saying, enough. Let me take it from here. Rest, chosen one, is not retreat. It is alignment. You are not stepping back from your purpose. You are stepping into divine order. What comes next will not be forced by your effort. It will be carried by God's timing, His favor, and His power. The pressure you once felt is lifting because the responsibility has changed hands. As you move forward from this moment, expect peace to guard your heart in ways you have never experienced before. Expect clarity to replace confusion. Expect doors to open without struggle and paths to align without striving. What once required effort will now flow with grace. What once drained you will now strengthen you. Do not be surprised if some things fall away. Not everything is meant to go where God is taking you. Trust His pruning. Trust His timing. Trust His wisdom. If something leaves, let it go. If something is delayed, wait. If something feels heavy, release it. You are being led by peace now, not pressure. Chosen one, you do not need to explain this season to everyone. Some will not understand the stillness. Some will question your calm. But this is a sacred space between you and God. He is teaching you how to live from rest, not resistance. From faith, not fear. From trust, not control. Remember this: what God has promised you is already written in heaven. You are not trying to make it happen. You are simply walking into what has already been ordained. Your job now is to stay aligned, stay faithful, and stay at peace. Let today be the moment you stop fighting for control and start resting in assurance. Let this be the chapter where anxiety loses its voice and peace takes its place. Let this be the season where God's grace does what your effort never could. Chosen one, breathe. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. The Creator of heaven and earth is personally involved in your story. He has seen every step, heard every prayer, and counted every tear. Now rest. Not because nothing matters, but because God matters most. Not because you gave up, but because you trusted Him enough to let go. The fight is finished in the Spirit. The victory is already secured. And what unfolds next will exceed what you imagined, because this time God is doing the rest.